Today I'd like to cover off one of the early questions that we get asked by lots of people who are looking into a garden annex is what's the difference between a garden room and a garden annex? And actually it can be quite confusing because quite a few garden room companies will actually promote their garden rooms as annexes, which always seems a little bit questionable to us. But nevertheless, I'd like to talk you through the key criteria of the difference between what is designed to be used as a living space, used for 24 hours a day, 365, no matter the weather, no matter the circumstances, and comparing that with something that is designed as a leisure space, maybe used as an office for 7 or 8 hours a day. It comes back down to the core aspects, which are materials. So the materials used in something that is designed to be lived in are very, very different from those that are designed for temporary use, for leisure use, in whatever circumstances it may be. Then we should also consider the wall thickness. So many garden rooms are constructed from SIPs, which is a reasonable building system. It stands for structural insulated panel, and it's a very quick, very cheap way of getting space into any garden. However, it's not really that suitable for any space that is designed for long-term living. As incidental space, as a garden room, SIPs are quite well proven and have been around for some years for exactly that purpose. So actually the construction of an annex, really the only way to properly create an annex is to do traditional timber framed, to give the structure its inherent strength. Then you also need to look at what it sits on. And so you'll find a lot of garden rooms tend to be specified with ground screws underneath. And that's, once again, that's an effective, cheap and quick way of getting a foundation in to accommodate something that is designed to be used for a few hours each day. However, on the other side of the equation, something that is designed to be lived in, once again, for 24 hours a day, 365, and the abuse that that kind of structure will be encountering is really quite significant. So therefore, actually, any proper garden annex or proper granny annex will have a proper concrete foundation to it. It tends not to be piled to the standard 3 meters or anything like that. Indeed, most cases a concrete raft, but once again it's a solid concrete raft, will be quite sufficient to provide the substance and the heft for the space that is required for full-time living. Then we move on to the construction of the annex itself, and actually once again with traditional timber framed, whether that the frame itself is cut on site or pre-cut in the factory, as indeed garden annexes are. The construction is about making sure, once again, there is sufficient insulation, there's sufficient thermal gaps, there's sufficient elements all the way through in terms of ceiling, floor, every single part is designed. So the final thing to consider is also remember the services. The services that are taken to an annex generally aren't supplied, or at least 3 of them aren't supplied into a garden room. So the services, we consider them to be the two wet services and the 2 dry services. Now, most garden rooms will have electrics connected up to them, but most of them won't have the wet services connected up. So in a garden annex, what you're looking at is the connection, the creation of the base, the creation of the service trench, which should be 700 mil deep, and then there's the implementation and the connection at both ends of the electrics, the Cat6, which is the internet cable. Then there is the fresh water that needs to be connected up to the main house. And then finally there's the sewer itself. The sewer technology has moved on in such a long way about sewerage, particularly for annexes. And I'm going to be covering that one in a separate post. But do remember that is a key element to getting the fresh water in and the sewerage back out again from any permanent living space is a major aspect of why typically a garden room is very differently priced and differently specified to a proper garden annex. I'm Charlie Dalton, I'm MD at Garden Annexes, and we're always here to help, so do give us a call.